October 25th, 1944, east of Samar, Philippine Sea. Dawn comes in grey and wet over the water. A low ceiling hangs above the horizon, heavy with rain squalls. The sea rolls beneath a line of slow, boxy American escort carriers, small ships with thin flight decks, crowded elevators, and pilots already climbing into FM2, Wildcats and TBM Avengers for another day of supporting the landings at Leyte. To the men aboard Taffy 3, it is supposed to be a routine morning, not peaceful. Nothing in Leyte Gulf is peaceful, but routine. The escort carriers are not built to fight battleships. They are jeep carriers, cheap and practical, meant to escort convoys, hunt submarines, and launch close air support for soldiers ashore. Their hulls are merchant-like. Their speed is painfully limited. Their armor is almost non-existent. Their largest real protection is distance, aircraft, and the belief that the big enemy surface fleet has already been handled somewhere else. On the bridge of us, Fanshawe Bay, Rear Admiral Clifton A.F. Sprague watches the morning take shape. Sprague is not a man looking for a surface battle. His carriers Fanshawe Bay, St. Lo, White Plains, Kalinin Bay, Kitkun Bay, and Gambia Bay are floating airfields, not battle wagons. Around them steam 3 destroyers Hull, Heerman, and Johnston, and 4 destroyer escorts, Samuel B. Roberts, Dennis Raymond, and John C. Butler. 7 small escorts guarding 6 small carriers. That is all. Out beyond the western horizon, Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita Center Force is moving south after slipping through San Bernardino Strait. It is not supposed to be here. American commanders believe the Japanese surface threat has been broken or turned back. Admiral William Bull Halsey, a powerful Third Fleet, has gone north after Japanese carriers bait in the larger Japanese plan. And now the door to Leyte Gulf is open. At first, the warning comes like a mistake. A pilot from St. Lo, flying a morning patrol, sees shapes on the horizon. At that distance, in that light, they might be American. The sea is full of friendly ships. The silhouettes are hard to judge. Then he looks closer. Pagoda masts, tall, unmistakable Japanese superstructures rising from the grey-like towers from another age. The pilot's voice cuts through the radio traffic with disbelief. These are not friendly ships. On the American ships, men turn toward the northwest. At 0646, radar aboard Fanshawe Bay reports an unidentified surface contact. Minutes later, the horizon flashes. At first it looks almost beautiful. Orange light flickers beneath the low clouds. Then comes the sound, deep, delayed, enormous. The thunder of battleship guns rolls across the water. The first salvos fall wide, throwing white towers of water into the air. Shell splashes climb higher than the masts of the escort carriers. Some of the projectiles are armor-piercing rounds meant to smash through battleship steel. Against the thin-skinned carriers of Taffy 3, they are grotesquely oversized like a sledgehammer swung at glass. Sprague understands almost instantly. This is not a scouting force. This is the Japanese center force. Battleships. Heavy cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers. Somewhere out there is Yamamoto, the largest battleship ever built, carrying 18.1-inch guns. With her are Nagato, Kongo, and Haruna. Ships designed for the kind of decisive fleet action naval officers had imagined for decades, and in their path sits Taffy 3. You can imagine the first seconds on those little carriers. Sailors staring across the water as colored shell splashes rise around them. Pilots strapping in while the deck vibrates beneath their boots. Signalmen trying to read flags and smoke through rain. Engine rooms forcing every ounce of speed from ships that cannot outrun what is coming. Sprague gives the order that makes sense, because no other order exists. Turn away, make smoke, launch everything. The escort carriers swing eastward, their wakes widening as they run from a force they cannot possibly defeat in a gunnery duel. Black smoke begins to pour from funnels. Destroyers and destroyer escorts start laying smoke screens, trying to hide the flat-topped carriers from Japanese rangefinders. But the wind is wrong, the weather is uncertain. The Japanese are closing. On the destroyer, West Johnston, Commander Ernest He. Evans sees the same nightmare every other captain sees, but his response is different. Johnston is small, fast, and dangerously under-armored. Her 5-inch guns cannot seriously hurt a battleship. Her torpedoes are deadly, but to use them, she must close the range, driving straight toward the enemy S-guns. Evans has promised his crew before that Johnston is a fighting ship. Now that promise has arrived. Without waiting for perfect orders, Johnston turns out of the screen and points her bow toward the Japanese line. On the bridge, men feel the ship lean as speed builds. Ahead, the largest warships in the world are firing behind. The escort carriers of Taffy 3 are running for their lives, and between them, one American destroyer begins her charge. Commander Ernest, does not ease Johnston into the fight. He throws her at it. The destroyer's engines strain as she surges through the chop, bow rising and falling, spray breaking over her forward gun mounts. Her crew can see the Japanese line now, not as shadows, not as rumors from radar, but as towering steel forms on the horizon. Battleships and cruisers are advancing in columns, their guns flashing through smoke and rain. Johnston is racing towards ships many times, her size on her bridge. Evans stands exposed in the open air. He is a Cherokee from Oklahoma, a hard-driving officer who had told his men at commissioning that Johnston would never run from a fight. Now the words return to every man aboard like a debt being collected. Japanese shells begin walking closer. A column of water erupts off the bow. Another rises astern. The ocean seems to explode around the destroyer, each splash tall enough to drown the ship if it lands directly. The men at the 5-inch guns keep firing anyway. The mounts hammer out round after round, the sharp crack of American guns swallowed by the deeper thunder of enemy battleships. At first, Johnston's shells seem absurd against the mass of the Japanese fleet. Then they begin to matter. Her gunners aim at the nearest heavy cruiser, Kumano, flagship of Cruiser Division 7. Johnston's 5-inch shells slash into the cruiser's upper works, damaging exposed positions, disrupting command, forcing men to duck behind steel and flame. They cannot pierce the main belt armor, but they can blind, burn, and confuse. Evans wants more than harassment, he wants torpedo range. Johnston drives closer, close enough that the enemy ships fill the horizon. Every second now is borrowed. Every man aboard knows that if a heavy shell finds them cleanly, the destroyer may vanish in a single burst of fire and steam. Evans gives the order, the torpedoes away. The long, deadly wakes run out from Johnston toward the Japanese formation. For a few moments, no one can know whether they will strike. Then one of them slams into Kumano's bow. The explosion tears forward structure apart and slows the heavy cruiser violently. Kumano, one of the predators bearing down on the escort carriers, is suddenly wounded, her bow mangled, her formation broken. It is the first American answer to the impossible. But the Japanese do not stop. Behind Johnston, Sprague's carriers continue fleeing under fire. On their flight decks, chaos has become procedure. Aircraft are being launched with whatever they carry. Some Avengers take off with torpedoes. Others carry bombs, depth charges, or nothing suitable for attacking heavy warships at all. Wildcats roar down short decks and lift into the grey air with machine guns meant for fighters, not battleship armor. The pilots know it. They go anyway. Some are ordered to attack. Others attack because there is no other way to keep the Japanese busy. They dive at cruisers, strafe bridges, drop small bombs, fake torpedo runs after their ordnance is gone, and make repeated passes through anti-aircraft fire simply to force Japanese captains to turn. In a battle of steel, they become noise, motion, and fear. From the Japanese side, the view is confusing. Kurita's force has stumbled upon American carriers, but they do not look like the main fleet carriers his officers expect. Their aircraft are everywhere, smoke is everywhere, destroyers are charging from unexpected angles, shell splashes, rain squalls and smoke screens blur the battlefield into fragments. What should be a slaughter begins to lose shape. On the escort carrier White Plains, Japanese shells scream overhead. One massive salvo lands so close that the ship shudders from the underwater shock. The hull flexes, lights flicker. Men are knocked off their feet. For a moment, it feels as if the carrier has been struck below the waterline. But she keeps moving. Aboard Kalinin Bay, sailors watch enemy salvos creep nearer, each one corrected by observers, trying to find the range. The carriers are slow, but Sprague orders them to twist and turn, combing shell splashes, hiding in smoke, and using every patch of rain like a curtain. Then another American destroyer joins the attack, Was Hull under Commander Leonce. Kintberger turns toward the enemy. Hull is already under fire. Her mission is suicidal in everything but name. Close the Japanese line, fire torpedoes, draw attention away from the carriers. She charges through smoke and shell fire, her guns firing as fast as crews can load them. Soon Heermann follows, plunging into the same chaos. 3 destroyers now stand between Taffy 3 and destruction. They are not winning in the traditional sense. They are not sinking the Japanese battle line. They are not stopping Yamato with 5-inch guns. But they are doing something more urgent. They are making the Japanese fleet react. They are forcing turns, forcing evasive maneuvers, forcing commanders to think the Americans are stronger, closer, and more dangerous than they really are. And in those turns, in those minutes of confusion, the escort carriers keep running. The smoke thickens until the sea itself seems to disappear. To the men aboard Taffy 3, the battle is no longer a clean line of ships on a chart. It is noise and fragments. Orange flashes inside grey curtains. Enemy shells falling from unseen guns, American destroyers bursting out of smoke and vanishing again like hunted animals refusing to die. On Fanshawe Bay, Rear Admiral Sprague keeps issuing orders while the Japanese salvos creep closer. His voice must remain steady, because thousands of men are listening for steadiness. Around him, officers track reports that sound impossible when spoken aloud. Enemy battleships closing, heavy cruisers closing, destroyers closing. Friendly aircraft attacking with whatever they have left. Destroyers making torpedo runs. Sprague knows the truth. Taffy 3 cannot defeat Kurita's center force by weight of metal. Every minute must be stolen. Every turn forced on the Japanese line gives the carriers another few thousand yards. Every smoke screen, every fake torpedo run, every 5-inch shell striking a bridge or rangefinder buys life. Then US Samuel B. Roberts enters the fight. She is not even a fleet destroyer. She is a destroyer escort, smaller, slower, lightly armed, built to guard convoys against submarines and aircraft. Her crew calls her the destroyer escort that fought like a battleship, but that legend has not yet been earned. At this moment, she's simply a small ship under Lieutenant Commander Robert W. Copeland, watching giants bear down on American carriers. Copeland understands what his men are being asked to do. There is no speech long enough to make it reasonable. Roberts turns toward the Japanese. Her engines are pushed beyond their intended limits. The little ship begins making speed she was never meant to sustain, shaking as if every plate and rivet is protesting. Black smoke trails behind her. Her 5-inch guns open fire. Her torpedo tubes train out. The men aboard know that to reach torpedo range, they must cross through a storm of shells designed for ships far larger than themselves. A Japanese cruiser looms through the haze. Roberts fires torpedoes, then swings away, guns still barking. Her shells strike upper decks and superstructure. They are small hits, but in this kind of battle, small hits become part of a larger deception. To Japanese lookouts peering through smoke and spray, it is hard to tell what they are facing. Destroyers appear where escort ships should be. Carriers launch aircraft continuously. Torpedo wakes cut through the water. Gunfire flashes from all sides. The Americans look desperate. They also look dangerous. Above the surface fight, Taffy 3S aircraft keep coming. A TBM Avenger dives out of cloud with no proper anti-ship weapon left and makes a dry run against a cruiser. The pilot knows he has nothing to drop, but the Japanese gunners do not. Tracers rise toward him. The cruiser turns away to avoid an imagined torpedo. That turn matters. A Wildcat pilot, nearly out of ammunition, strafes a battleship's bridge and anti-aircraft positions. Machine gun fire cannot sink a battleship, but it can force men down, distract lookouts, and add to the feeling that the sky itself is hostile. Some pilots land on other carriers because their own decks are fouled or hidden. Others circle, rearm if they can, and return. A few attack so low that sailors can see the aircraft flash between shell splashes and smoke columns, is being torn apart. After her first torpedo attack, Japanese shells find her. Heavy hits smash into the destroyer, wrecking machinery, cutting power, tearing open compartments, and killing men at their stations. Commander Evans is wounded. His hand is damaged, his body struck by fragments, but he refuses to leave the bridge. Johnston loses speed. Then she keeps fighting. With damaged steering and reduced power, she turns back toward the Japanese destroyers, threatening the carriers. Her guns continue firing under local control. Men load and aim through smoke, heat, and blood. The ship is no longer a sleek destroyer making a clean attack. She is a wounded animal, circling back into the teeth of the hunters. Hull is suffering the same fate. She has drawn fire from battleships and cruisers, exactly as her attack was meant to do. Shells hammer her hull, fires break out, communications fail, compartments flood. Still she fights, still she maneuvers, still she throws herself between the carriers and the Japanese advance. Heermann, too, charges so aggressively that she threatens larger ships with torpedoes and forces them to turn. At one point, the huge Yamato herself must maneuver away from torpedo danger, losing time and position in the pursuit. That is the strange, brutal mathematics of Samar. The Americans do not need to destroy the Japanese fleet. They need to make it hesitate. And now, across the battlefield, hesitation is spreading. Hesitation is not the same as safety. The Japanese guns are still firing. Through the smoke, the escort carrier Gambia Bay begins to fall behind. She is slow even among slow ships. A boxy little carrier built on a merchant hull, never intended to race away from battleships. Her engineering crew forces the boilers hard, but there is only so much speed in her bones. Around her, shell splashes march closer. Each geyser of water rises like a white wall, collapses, and leaves the deck slick with spray. Captain Walter WWII tries to keep her alive. Gambia Bay turns, dodges, and disappears when smoke allows it. Her guns are almost meaningless against the ships hunting her. Her aircraft are already gone, hurled into the sky to fight with bombs, rockets, depth charges, machine guns, or empty racks. Now she has only movement, and movement is failing. Japanese cruisers close the range. Their shells begin to hit. The first impacts tear into Gambia Bay with a violence her light construction cannot absorb. Steel bursts inward. Fires break out. Men are knocked flat by concussion. The flight deck, moments earlier a place of frantic launching, becomes a shattered surface of splinters, smoke, and twisted metal. Below decks, sailors fight flooding and fire in compartments never meant to endure cruiser gunfire. Pipes rupture, steam hisses through damaged spaces. The ship begins to lose speed. For the men watching from other carriers, Gambia Bay's struggle is unbearable because it shows what awaits them all if the Japanese line closes just a little farther. She is not destroyed instantly. That is the cruel part. She is beaten down piece by piece. Each salvo seems to lift the sea around her. Each hit steals more power, more steering, more life. Yet her crew stays at their stations as long as stations remain. Damage control parties move through smoke with hoses and extinguishers. Wounded men are dragged across hot metal. Officers shout orders over the roar of fire and the slam of incoming shells. There is no illusion now. Gambia Bay is being killed by surface gunfire, an American carrier under the guns of Japanese cruisers in broad daylight, a thing that was never supposed to happen. Nearby Samuel B. Roberts continues firing. The destroyer Escort has already made her torpedo attack, already spent the weapon that gave her the best chance to hurt something large, but Copeland and his crew do not withdraw. Roberts closes and fires at the heavy cruiser Chokai, then shifts targets as the battlefield twists around her. Her 5-inch gun crews work with furious rhythm, firing so rapidly that paint blisters and metal heats under their hands. Japanese shells find her too. A heavy round smashes into the ship and tears open machinery spaces. Another hit wrecks vital systems. Roberts begins to lose speed, but her guns keep firing. Men pass ammunition by hand. Crews continue loading while fragments cut through exposed positions. Aboard the ship, the sound changes from battle noise to destruction. The deck shudders differently when the hull is failing. The smell becomes oil, steam, powder smoke, burned insulation, and seawater. Men who have trained for emergencies now face all emergencies at once. Still, Roberts keeps shooting. Hull, already mauled, is near the end of her fight. Her hull has been opened again and again. She has taken punishment that no destroyer can survive for long. Fires burn in multiple spaces. Steering is damaged. Guns are knocked out. Men fight through smoke so thick they can barely see the deck beneath their boots. But Hull has done what she came to do. She has pulled Japanese fire away from the carriers. She has forced maneuvers. She has made the enemy waste time and ammunition on a destroyer that refused to behave like prey. The cost is almost everything. Johnston, crippled and battered, is still out there as well. Commander Evans, wounded and exposed, continues directing what remains of his ship. Johnston no longer looks like the proud destroyer that charged from the screen. At the start of the battle, she is smoking, torn, slowed, and surrounded by enemies. Yet she attacks again. When Japanese destroyers try to close on the escort carriers, Johnston moves to intercept them. Her guns bark from damaged mounts. Her presence alone disrupts the attack. To the Japanese commanders, the American defense feels larger than it is, because ships that should be sinking are still fighting. Aircraft that should be gone are still diving, and smoke keeps turning distance into uncertainty. On Kurita's flagship, the picture is becoming dangerously unclear. Reports come in unevenly. American carriers are ahead, but what kind? Some officers believe they may have found part of Halsey's fast carrier force. The destroyer attacks seem too bold for a weak escort group. Aircraft are relentless. Torpedo warnings, forced turns, smoke hides numbers. Rain squalls break formations. Cruisers are damaged, time is slipping away. And behind all of this lies Leyte Gulf, the invasion. Anchorage, the transports, the soldiers ashore. Kurita has the power to push onward. But the battle in front of him no longer looks simple. Then Gambia Bay slows to a crawl. Her list increases. Smoke pours from her wounds. Men begin preparing to abandon ship as the carrier settles lower in the water. Around her, shells continue to fall. The little carrier has run as far as she can. Gambia Bay dies slowly in the middle of a battle that has no room for mercy. Her crewmen move through smoke and broken passageways, trying to reach topside as the carrier loses the last of her speed. The ship is listing now. Her flight deck angled against the grey sky. Men who had spent the morning launching aircraft now climb over wreckage, step around torn steel, and listen for the order they know is coming. Abandon ship. For a moment, the command feels unreal. A carrier is not supposed to be abandoned under direct enemy gunfire. A carrier is supposed to launch planes from a safe distance, protected by screens of cruisers, destroyers, and battleships. But off Samar, all the rules have collapsed. The little escort carrier has been caught in the open by heavy cruisers, and her thin hull cannot take any more. Men go over the side, some jump, some climb down nets, some are thrown into the sea by blasts and collapsing structure. Around them, the water is slick with fuel, dotted with debris, and broken by shell splashes. Life rafts are cut loose. Wounded sailors are pushed toward anything that floats. The ship groans as compartments flood deeper. Nearby, Japanese shells continue to fall around the American formation. There is no pause for rescue. The other carriers cannot stop. If they slow down, they die too. Destroyers cannot turn back without exposing the entire screen. Pilots overhead look down and see men in the water. But the enemy is still closing, and the battle is still being fought. Gambia Bay rolls and settles, her stern and flight deck slipping toward the sea. Then she is gone. The only American aircraft carrier sunk by enemy surface gunfire during the war. But even as she disappears, Taffy 3 is still fighting. Kalinin Bay takes hit after hit. Shells punch through her light plating and burst through compartments. One round tears across her flight deck. Another smashes into the hangar area. Fires start a fort and start again. Men move through smoke with hoses, while aircraft fuel and ammunition make every flame terrifying. Yet Kalinin Bay keeps launching and recovering aircraft when she can. Her captain, Thomas J. Sprague, not to be confused with Rear Admiral Clifton Sprague, commanding the task unit, maneuvers the carrier with stubborn precision. The ship is wounded, but she remains in the line, still moving, still refusing to become another dead carrier under Japanese guns. Fanshawe Bay, Sprague's flagship, is also under fire. Near misses throw water across her decks. Shell fragments rip through exposed equipment. The Admiral remains focused on the desperate geometry of survival. Keep the carriers moving east and south. Keep smoke between them and the enemy. Keep aircraft in the air. Keep the Japanese uncertain. To the west, the American escorts are being sacrificed one by one. Hull is sinking. Her crew has fought until the ship can no longer answer the helm, until guns are silent or nearly so, until flooding and fire have made survival impossible. Men abandon ship into a sea, still churned by shellfire. Some are burned. Some are wounded. Some cling to rafts and wreckage, watching their destroyer, the ship, that carried them into the impossible slip beneath the surface. Samuel B. Roberts is not far behind. The little destroyer Escort has been hit too many times. Her engine spaces are wrecked. Her guns, which fired with such ferocity, that crews seem to be challenging cruisers by will alone, fall silent one by one. Lieutenant Commander Copeland gives the order to abandon ship, only after the Roberts has spent herself completely. Men enter the water knowing rescue may not come soon. The Philippine Sea is warm, but warmth means little when oil burns the eyes, salt fills wounds, and enemy ships still move nearby. Survivors hear gunfire continuing over the horizon. They do not know whether Taffy 3 has escaped, or whether all of them are watching the first stage of a massacre. Johnston remains in action, almost beyond belief. Her decks are shattered, her speed is gone. Enemy ships surround her. Commander Evans is last seen still trying to fight his ship, still refusing surrender to the logic of tonnage and armor. Japanese destroyers and cruisers pour fire into Johnston until she can take no more. At last, the ship begins to sink. Survivors later remember Japanese sailors watching as Johnston goes down. Some accounts describe an enemy officer saluting the dying destroyer, a gesture across the water, from men who understood courage when they saw it. Johnston S. bow rises her torn hull, slips under. Commander Ernest Evans does not survive, but the time he bought remains alive. The Japanese pursuit has been broken into confusion. Cruisers have been damaged, destroyer attacks have forced evasive turns. Aircraft continue to harass the formation. Smoke and rain still distort the picture. Kurita's ships have not crushed Taffy 3 quickly, and every minute spent fighting these small ships pulls him deeper into uncertainty. Then, aboard the Japanese flagship, the question becomes unavoidable. What exactly are they fighting, and what might be waiting beyond the smoke? Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita has spent the morning chasing ghosts. From the bridge of Yamato, the largest battleship ever sent to sea, he can see only pieces of the fight. Smoke lies across the water in long, dirty banks. Rain squalls move like curtains between formations. American aircraft dive from cloud and vanish again. Torpedo alarms break concentration. Reports arrive from cruisers and destroyers in fragments, each one colored by shock, confusion, and damage. Kurita had entered the battle with overwhelming strength. Now that strength is scattered, his formation has lost cohesion during the chase. Some ships have turned away from torpedo tracks. Others have surged forward or fallen back. Heavy cruisers have been damaged. Communications are imperfect. The enemy carriers remain ahead, but they have not behaved like helpless escort carriers waiting to be killed. They have launched wave after wave of aircraft. Their destroyers have attacked with suicidal aggression. Their smoke screens have made range-finding miserable. Their small ships have fought, as if a powerful American fleet is just beyond sight. Kurita must make decisions with incomplete information, and every decision carries the weight of the entire Leyte operation. If he presses on, he may reach the American invasion transports in Leyte Gulf. If he is wrong, he may drive his already battered force into waiting American carrier aircraft and battleships. He does not know that Halsey-fast battleships are far to the north. He does not know that Taffy 3 is almost alone. He sees resistance where he expected collapse, and resistance creates doubt. On the American side, no one knows what Kurita is thinking. To the men aboard the surviving carriers, the Japanese fleet still looks like doom itself. Shells continue to fall, ships continue to burn. Survivors from Johnston, Howell, Samuel B. Roberts, and Gambier Bay are scattered across the sea behind them, clinging to wreckage as the battle moves away. On Fanshawe Bay, Admiral Sprague keeps fighting the battle minute by minute. His carriers are damaged, low on aircraft, and still too slow to escape by speed alone. Some planes return riddled with holes, others have nowhere safe to land. Pilots who have already attacked once are sent back again. Ordnance crews load whatever is available, because at Samar even the wrong weapon is better than silence. A TBM Avenger drops a bomb near a cruiser. Another plane makes a dry torpedo run with empty racks. Wildcats strafe gun positions and bridges, their machine guns flashing against warships built to survive far worse. The pilots know their attacks are often more psychological than destructive, but psychology is now part of the battlefield. Every dive makes Japanese gunners look up. Every fake torpedo run can force a turn. Every turn widens the distance between Kurita and the invasion beaches. Every minute adds to the possibility that heavier American forces may appear. Then the strangest thing happens. The Japanese advance begins to lose its hunger. Ships that had been closing now seem to hesitate. The pressure eases unevenly, almost impossibly. American lookouts, exhausted and half-blinded by smoke, struggle to understand what they are seeing. The giant enemy ships are still there, their guns can still reach, their presence still dominates the horizon. But they are no longer rushing forward with the same certainty. Kurita is reassessing. His cruisers have taken losses. His fleet has been under constant air attack. His mission to break into Leyte Gulf and destroy the invasion shipping still exists, but the path ahead is now clouded by fear of what lies beyond the smoke. He has already survived submarine attacks in the Palawan Passage, air attacks in the Sibuyan Sea, and the sinking of the battleship Musashi the previous day. His men are tired, his ships are damaged, his information is unreliable. The Americans do not look weak enough. At approximately mid-morning, Kurita gives the order that will define the battle. His force turns away. At first, the Americans cannot believe it. Aboard the escort carriers, men stare through binoculars and smoke, waiting for the enemy to resume the chase. It feels like a trick. It feels impossible that battleships and cruisers could turn back from carriers they had nearly caught. But the wakes tell the truth. The Japanese ships are withdrawing. Taffy 3 has not destroyed Kurita's center force. It has not won by armor, gun caliber, or numbers. It has won something stranger and more fragile. It has convinced a stronger enemy that the fight is more dangerous than it truly is. For the surviving Americans, relief does not arrive as cheering. It arrives as disbelief. Men keep scanning the horizon. Damage control crews keep working. Pilots still circle overhead. Wounded sailors still cry out below decks. In the water behind them, hundreds of survivors wait for rescue, not yet knowing whether the battle has spared them or abandoned them. Then, as the surface threat fades, another danger comes from the sky. The men of Taffy 3 have survived the guns of battleships. They have survived heavy cruisers, destroyers, torpedoes, shell splashes taller than their masts, and the terrible sight of their own ships sinking behind them. But the morning is not finished. Above the battered escort carriers, the sky is beginning to change. Japanese aircraft appear through the clouds. At first, they are just distant shapes, small, dark specks moving with purpose. Lookouts call bearings. Anti-aircraft crews swing their guns upward. Men who have spent the morning watching the horizon now turn their faces to the sky. The carriers are damaged, scattered, and exhausted. Their air groups have been launched, recovered, redirected, and thrown back into combat again and again. Deck crews are worn down by smoke, heat, and fear. Some ships still carry scars from near misses and shell hits. Others have wounded men below, fires barely contained, and flight decks crowded with the aftermath of desperate action. Now a new kind of attack is coming. The Japanese pilots are not making ordinary bombing runs. They are coming in to die. The organized use of suicide aircraft, what the world will soon know as kamikaze attacks, is still new, still shocking in its deliberate finality. Sailors have seen enemy pilots press attacks too far before. They have seen damaged planes crash into ships, but this is different. These aircraft are not merely risking destruction. They are aiming for it. On the escort carrier, Sutlo Captain Francis J. McKenna's crew is still recovering from the surface battle. Sutlo has survived the impossible morning. Her planes have flown against Kurita's ships. Her sailors have watched giant shell splashes climb around Taffy 3. Like the others, she has escaped a fate that should have swallowed her. Then one Japanese aircraft breaks through. It is often identified as a Mitsubishi A6M0, coming low and fast through anti-aircraft fire. Guns aboard the American ships open up. Tracers stitch the sky. The plane keeps coming. There is a terrible intimacy to an aircraft attack at the last second. Men can see the wings. They can see the angle of descent. They can feel, before impact, that the pilot is not pulling away. The plane strikes lost flight deck. The impact tears through the carrier with a flash of fire and metal. A bomb penetrates into the hangar area and explodes among aircraft, fuel, and ordnance. In an instant, the ship's interior becomes a furnace. Flames roar upward through the flight deck. Smoke boils into the sky. Secondary explosions begin sharp, brutal detonations as ammunition and fuel ignite. Men are thrown across compartments. Fire races through spaces, crowded with the machinery of aviation. Gasoline lines, bombs, rockets, aircraft frames, oxygen bottles. Damage control crews move toward the flames because that is what they have been trained to do. But St. Lo is dying faster than men can save her. Explosions rip through the ship one after another. The flight deck buckles. Elevators are blown upward. The hangar becomes a place of fire and concussion. Sailors below decks are trapped by smoke and heat. Others struggle topside, burned, stunned, deafened by the blasts. Only minutes earlier, the greatest threat had been Japanese battleships. Now one aircraft has done what heavy gunfire could not. St. Lo begins to settle around her. The surviving ships of Taffy 3 are still at general quarters. No one can assume the attack is over. Other Japanese aircraft threaten the formation. Anti-aircraft guns continue firing. Crews watch the sky with the same dread they had used to watch the horizon. The sea around Lo fills with men. Some leap from the burning carrier. Others climb down lines. Some are blown clear by explosions and hit the water injured or unconscious. Life rafts are thrown over. Destroyer escorts and nearby vessels begin rescue work when they can. But the danger remains overhead. For the survivors of St. Lo, the shock is almost beyond language. They have survived Samar's surface action, only to be struck from above in the battle's final act. Aboard the remaining carriers, there is no triumph. Not yet. There is only the raw fact of survival mixed with grief. Gambier Bay is gone, Johnston is gone, Hull is gone, Samuel B. Roberts is gone. Now St. Lo is burning and sinking. The victory, if it can be called that in the moment, has come at a savage price. Still, the invasion fleet at Leyte has not been destroyed. The transports remain alive. The soldiers ashore still have their lifeline, and Kurita's battleships are moving away. The men of Taffy 3 do not yet know how history will remember them. They do not know that naval officers will study this morning as one of the most astonishing last stands in American naval history. They only know what they have seen. Small ships charging giants, pilots attacking without proper weapons, carriers running under battleship fire, and ordinary sailors holding the line long enough to change the course of a battle. As St. Lo disappears beneath smoke and flame, the sea off Samar is littered with oil, wreckage, rafts, and men waiting to be found. The shooting is fading, the ordeal is not. The ordeal is not. For the survivors, the battle does not end when the guns fade. It changes shape. The men in the water hear the thunder move away until it becomes a distant mutter beyond the horizon. Smoke still stains the sky. Oil spreads in dark sheets across the sea. Pieces of ships drift everywhere, planks, life rings, shattered aircraft parts, ammunition boxes, torn canvas, and fragments of grey-painted steel that only hours earlier had belonged to vessels with names, crews, routines, and voices. A sailor from Gambier Bay clings to a raft with burned hands. A gunner from Hull floats beside men he does not know. All of them blackened with oil, survivors from Samuel B. Roberts try to keep the wounded from slipping under. Men from Johnston search the water for their captain. Though many already understand that Commander Ernest Evans has gone down with the ship he refused to surrender. The sea is warm, but time turns warmth into cruelty. Salt dries on faces. Oil stings eyes and throats. Wounds swell. Men who swallowed fuel vomit until they have nothing left. The sun climbs higher, turning the water into a glare that burns exposed skin. Some men are silent, others pray. Others call names into the open sea and wait for answers that never come. There is no immediate rescue. The American formation has been scattered and battered. Ships are damaged. Aircraft are searching. Commanders are still trying to understand the size of the disaster and the miracle inside it. In war, survival can be delayed by confusion, as much as by enemy fire, so the men wait, hour after hour. Some lash themselves together with lines, so the weak will not drift away. Officers and chiefs try to keep order among men who have lost their ships, their clothes, their canteens, and sometimes their hope. They ration sips of rainwater when squalls pass overhead. They warn each other not to drink seawater. They push wreckage toward those who can no longer swim. Then the sharks come. At first they are shapes below the surface, moving with terrible patience. Then fins break the water. Men kick and shout. Groups tighten together. The wounded are most vulnerable. The living try to shield them, but exhaustion is a slow enemy, and the sea takes men quietly when strength finally runs out. Night falls over Samar. In darkness, the battlefield becomes a field of voices. Men call out to stay connected. Some sing. Some whisper home addresses and family names to strangers, asking that someone remember if they do not survive. Others stare upward at the stars, trying to understand how the world can look so calm after such violence. By the next day, rescue craft begin finding them. Not all at once, never fast enough. Small ships and patrol craft move through the debris fields, hauling oil-covered survivors aboard. Hands reach down from decks, ropes are thrown, men too weak to climb are lifted in slings. Some collapse the moment they touch steel. Others ask first about their ship, their captain, their gun crew, their brother. The rescuers see what the battle has cost. They pull aboard men with burns, shrapnel wounds, broken limbs, and eyes swollen nearly shut from oil and salt. They pull aboard teenagers who look suddenly old. They pull aboard officers who cannot stop counting the missing. They pull aboard sailors who still do not know that the invasion fleet at Leyte has been saved. Only later does the scale become clear. Taffy 3 has lost Gambier Bay, St. Lo, Johnston, Hull, and Samuel B. Roberts. Other ships are damaged. Hundreds of men are dead or missing. The survivors carry memories that will never return to normal life. Battleship shells falling around escort carriers, destroyers charging through smoke, aircraft attacking with empty bomb racks, and the sight of Japanese warships turning away. For the Japanese, the withdrawal remains one of the most consequential decisions of the Leyte campaign. Kurita's center force had broken through. It had found the weak escort carriers guarding the approaches. It had the firepower to continue toward the invasion anchorage. But Taffy 3's resistance had made weakness look like hidden strength. The smoke, torpedoes, aircraft, and sheer aggression of small ships created a battlefield too dangerous and too confusing to trust. The tiny carriers had not been harmless after all. Their aircraft had swarmed like hornets. Their escorts had attacked like wolves. Their sailors had fought as if the fate of every man ashore at Leyte depended on them, because it did. In the days and years that follow, the Battle off Samar becomes more than a naval action on a chart. It becomes a story sailors tell in lowered voices, a reminder that steel alone does not decide a battle. Armor matters, guns matter, numbers matter, but so do nerve, confusion, timing, sacrifice, and the willingness of small ships to sail directly into the guns of giants. Off Samar, on the morning of October 25th, 1944, Taffy 3 did not look like a force that could turn back battleships. But by the time the smoke cleared, the battleships were gone.